Hey, hello everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are joining us from. And maybe there's some good evenings out there as well. Who knows? My name is Erin, and today is our first session of a week-long series, The Toolkit for a Balanced Life. So I'm just going to wait a moment or two to give folks enough time to join, and not too much in terms of housekeeping. I think you'll just need a tiny bit of space in order to move because today's topic is movement and play. But that, I think the amount of space you need is easy to come by. Okay, so let's get started. Welcome. And my name is Erin, as I already said. I'm the Director of Curriculum and Instruction at Pure Edge, also a national trainer for our organization. And I'm very happy to be with you all today. And if you're on this webinar, most likely you know us, but if it's your first time joining, a big welcome to you. And we are Pure Edge Inc. We're a private operating foundation, and we provide direct service to organizations through professional development and strategy thought partnership. We always like to start our sessions really just starting right off with a practice. And so for today, we thought we'd start with the mindful minute. So as you enter into the mindful minute, you want to make sure you're in a comfortable sitting position. So if you're seated in your office chair or if you're seated in a chair somewhere, if possible, make sure your feet can touch the ground. Legs are not crossed. And you're sitting up with a little lift to your spines, like a little lift in the chest, a little alertness as we start the exercise. If you're on the floor, then of course cross legs are okay, and still that lift up in the chest. Your eyes can be open or closed, and that is your choice, whichever way helps you relax and focus the best. From here, I invite you to bring your attention to your breathing, and we're going to bring the attention to the breath as it comes in and out the nose. So just watching the breath as it comes in, watching the breath as it goes out, and just noticing, what do you feel as you breathe in? What do you notice as you breathe out? Is the breath moving fast? Is the breath moving slow? Does the temperature of the breath feel the same on the inhalation as it does on the exhalation? And notice whether, just by starting to pay attention to your breathing, did you shift something about your breath? I find often when I start to pay attention to my breath, I automatically start to slow the breathing down. And that's not the only way, that's just what often happens to me. So, what happens when we notice? And from here, expanding your attention. So, just noticing anywhere in the body where you feel movement from the breath. Maybe you feel the breath moving in your chest or your belly. Maybe somewhere in the back of the body. And now shifting your attention to your heartbeat. And over the next few breaths, just noticing whether you can feel the beating of your heart. And noticing whether that heart is beating fast or slow. Anything else you might notice. And one more breath here. And if you closed your eyes, you can open them. Mm, Just noticing how you feel after taking that few minutes to check in. Okay, so I thought we'd start out with a little bit of a question. So our series on the toolkit is really about building a toolkit to support, the title calls it a balanced life, which, for me really implies well-being. So what does well-being mean to you? And if you have access, go ahead and let us know in the Q&A. Okay, we have our Q&A box open. Trying to get mine to pop up here. There we go. And for me, when I think about well-being, there's lots of different ways to approach this subject and this topic. And again, there's not really a wrong answer. But I think of well-being as a kind of alignment. So I think about it's like when, my thoughts, my words, my deeds are in sync, when I'm doing what I say I want to do, when I'm coming from a place that feels connected and in alignment, I usually feel good. And and life feels like it flows a little bit better in that, when I feel aligned. Um, and this is a lovely definition. So I believe it's Dina, although it could be Deanna. I've seen that same spelling pronounced both ways. Shares that well-being for her is feeling healthy in mind, spirit, body, and interactions. I love that. I love especially that you included interactions because that gets the relationship component of our health and well-being um, on the page, which is an important part of well-being for all of us. Okay, so when we think about our toolkit is not necessarily gonna give us, it's not guaranteeing some outcome of well-being, but it's looking at some components that can support you as you try to develop your well-being. And our toolkit for a balanced life comes from our Pure Power curriculum, and it's in the 6 to 12 grade level band. So that's where you can find a little more in-depth exploration of these different areas of the balanced life. So you can see here the toolkit highlights movement and play, learning and creating, sleep and active relaxation, socialization, which includes relationships, and also nutrition. And and we're covering most of these in our workshop series this week. And today our focus is on movement and play. And the foundation of almost all of these areas of the toolkit, and another foundation of well-being that we always include at Pure Edge is breathing, moving, and resting. So we'll be practicing some of these strategies across the week because these are evidence-based strategies that will support all of our well-being. So for today, I had the great fun, the great fun of being able to explore play. And let me tell you, there are a lot of people who have a lot of opinions about play, and I could have just done quotes for this whole session, and that would have taken up our whole time. But I've selected a few that I thought we might like to hear and reflect on. So, Jean Piaget, famous developmental psychologist, he says that play is the work of childhood. Right, so this gives play, a sense of importance, a sense of that it's something that we can value and that we should value and support. Fred Rogers took this quote and took it like a next step farther. And he says, play is often talked about as if it were a relief from serious learning. But for children, play is serious learning. Right. And, if any of you has watched a child engaged in like deep pretend play action, you know that this is serious business to them, right? This is something that is takes priority over almost anything else once they're immersed into it. And I love this quote, which comes from our beloved partner and collaborator, Dr. Victor Carrion, and he says that one of the characteristics of trauma is that it robs children from play. Play is essential in development. It is how we grow socially, emotionally, and physically. And yet, play is not just for children, right? Our brains are built to benefit from play no matter what our age. Okay, so as we allow those quotes and thoughts about play to settle in, let's engage in a movement practice. So for chair sunrise twist, again, you want to be in that comfortable sitting position, ideally with both feet on the floor, and you might need to scoot a little forward in your chair for that. And then we're just going to move with the breath. So as you breathe in, reach both arms up overhead. And then as you breathe out, you're going to turn to one side. Take the hand, bring it to the opposite knee, and the other hand can come to your hip. Inhale, lift the chest up, and exhale. Turn your gaze back so you're looking back over the shoulder. Let's take a breath in and out. In and out. Inhale, come back to center. Arms reach up again. Exhale, twist to the other side. The hand comes to the knee, the other hand comes to the hip, or if you have a little further to twist, you might hold on to the back of your chair, whatever feels good. Inhale, chest comes up. Exhale to twist. Just noticing your breathing. Big breath in and out. In and out. Inhale back to center. The arms come up again. And exhale. Bring the hands down. And then take a moment, check in. Notice how that felt to do that brief movement activity. And if you'd like to share a response or a reaction in the Q&A, go for it. So play allows the brain to become active in fresh ways, enhancing existing connections and sparking new ones. And physical activity, the movement piece of our series today, physical activity enhances neuroplasticity. So your memory is sharpened, neurological connections are forged, and existing connections are fortified. When we feel playful and joyful, we tend to be more open to new ideas and experiences. And that sense of spontaneity and openness are often aspects of creative and collaborative processes, right? So we work better with others when we're feeling open and we're feeling joyful and upbeat, right? That's when it's easy to collaborate and exchange ideas and get creative. And play means having fun, and having fun is one of the best parts of life. And there's a lovely video I'm going to share, which is one of our, at the time, she was a second grader who was in one of the schools where we shared some brain breaks and some mindfulness exercises and activities. And she shares about her experience with that. Um, make sure the sound is here we go. This is Micaiah.
It may not be the real reason of what mindful means, but what it means to me is being more calm, less stress, and having more fun because life is supposed to be about fun.
Doesn't that just sum it up? Um, so in addition to play and playfulness, we know movement is super important. And on our team, we love this study. We found it a few years back. It said 11 minutes of exercise can reverse the health effects of sitting all day, right? And of course, 30 to 40 minutes is better, but small doses of moderate to vigorous exercise have an impact. Right. So I think a lot of times with things like play and with things like movement in our days, we get too serious, right? And we get too focused on our work and our responsibilities and our duties, and we tell ourselves we don't have time, right? And so I think sometimes when we're armed with the correct information, when we know that even just 10 minutes will make a difference, then that can help us get out of that all or none thinking where it's like, well, if I can't go and work out for an hour, then I might as well not do it at all. Right, small doses add up over time, and it's easier to fit small doses into a busy day. Okay, so for this next movement activity, I'm gonna ask you, as you participate, to find a way to make it just a little bit playful, right? So, how can you have fun with this exercise? We're going to be following along to a video because we really want to make sure we're showcasing our free and beautiful video resources that are available to support your well-being. But as you follow along the video, follow the instructions, do the breathing, all of that, but try to find a way to make it a little extra fun, okay? Gonna go off camera so you can see the video better. Let's see.
Inhale, take the arm overhead and step the opposite foot behind to start. Exhale, lift the back leg, knee bent, and touch the opposite hand to the inside of the knee. Inhale, return the arm overhead and touch the toes slightly behind. Exhale, lift the back leg, touch the knee. Inhale, arm overhead, foot back. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Now switch sides. Inhale and take the arm overhead and step the opposite foot slightly behind. Exhale, lift the back leg, knee bent, and touch the opposite hand to the inside of the knee. Inhale, return the arm overhead and place the toes slightly behind. Exhale, lift the back leg, touch the knee. Inhale, arms overhead, foot back. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Now come back to standing tall.
Okay, so let's see. If you did find a way to make that playful and you want to let us know how you did that, you can go ahead and share in the Q&A. And it can be just a really simple Really simple little tricks to just keep ourselves engaged, keep things fun, watch our tendency to get too serious about things. And yeah, sometimes it's just a little mindset shift is all we need. So, another way we can help shift our mindset is through this exercise, which is called taking in the good. So, this is one of our rest strategies. And for taking in the good, it's really an exercise that's designed to counter our brain's natural negativity bias, which is our tendency to focus on the bad things that happen. And that's our brain's attempt to keep us safe. Because when we focus on perceived danger, then we know to avoid that perceived danger in the future. However, in modern life, what often happens is that we focus on things that actually aren't dangerous, but it's just much easier for our brains to remember negative or difficult things that happened. And so this exercise was designed to help us train our brains to focus on the good. So I invite you to join me. You can do this one in any comfortable seated position. And again, eyes can be open or closed, whatever feels best for you today. And I invite you to think of one thing from today. So, from the time you woke up this morning until right now, is there one thing you can think of that you feel good about? And you want to be specific here. So, for example, you listened, you were creative, you helped someone out. Um, it could be as simple as you stepped into your backyard and took 1 minute to just look at the trees and look at the sky and not be focused on your to-do list. So, whatever that one good thing is, I want you to bring that memory to mind. And we're going to imagine and remember that in as much detail as we can. And notice how you feel when you imagine that event. And for the next 30 seconds, we're going to allow our bodies to just absorb that feeling. And let's take a breath in and out, in and out. And we'll just carry that good feeling with you as you move into the rest of your day. So, just a few pointers about taking in the good, just because we always like to clarify and distinguish between taking in the good, which is taking in something good that has actually happened, and certain types of like positive thinking experiments where we're trying to, um, you know, like manipulate a certain outcome. So that's not what's happening here. What we're doing here is we're focusing on the positive in something that is occurring or has already occurred. We're absorbing and appreciating the experience itself. And that appreciation really helps us cultivate not only, I mean, it does help us cultivate like the sense of resilience and gratitude, but it also is just reminding us that these good things and good experiences do exist because, again, our brains are not always wired to focus on those. And finally, we're not hoping for any sort of outcome here. We're just exploring a positive aspect of our own experience. Okay, so we have made it toward the end of our session. We always like to close with an optimistic closure here at Pure Edge. This comes from the um, Castle's 3 signature practices. So first of all, think of something that you love to do, right? Because when we integrate movement and we integrate playfulness, again, like Micaiah said, it's about having fun, right? So think of something that you love to do, and if it helps, you can write it down or share it in our Q&A. And then think of one step you can take that will help you integrate movement and play into your days. And maybe your movement and play cup feels full. And if so, I applaud you. And I want to know how you do it because at times my movement and play cup gets a little empty, right? So it can be helpful to strategize. And as you work on this, I thought I would share a really short story of from my own life. There was this period of time when I was in graduate school, and for those of you who know, I was in graduate school in Boston, and winter slash spring in Boston is not always the most pleasant time, right? It gets wet, it gets slushy, it gets dark at like 4 p.m. Um, so our spring break was coming up, but it was still like a wet and rainy and bitterly cold time of year. Many of my friends, for whatever reason, were traveling on the break, and I was not able to travel at that time. And so I was feeling like a little down about it, like I was like, oh, I have this week off. Don't really know what I'm going to do. It's pretty miserable around here. And then I was like, well, what can I do that will make this a good week? And at the time, I was just sort of getting into my yoga practice. And I was like, okay, well, one small thing I can do is I can go to yoga every day. And that was like a big splurge in my grad student budget because I was not, I was not able to swing that all the time. But I thought, well, that will be like a affordable treat that will help me feel good throughout this week. And when I did that, and I did, follow through and I scheduled those commitments. I went to those classes. And I would say from there, I felt so good doing that that I continued that practice for many, many years to come, where yoga just became part of my day, where it was just an essential that it had to be an ingredient in my day. And that came from a decision that was based on like, what can I do to feel good in this kind of challenging situation? So hopefully you found a way to incorporate some playfulness and some feeling good. And our session tomorrow will be led by Jill, and Jill's going to talk to us about learning and creativity. So I look forward to that. Hopefully you'll be able to join us. And again, these sessions will keep going throughout the week. Thank you so much for joining, and uh, please stay in touch. The information's all here. If you want to reach out, we're always here to respond.